Shalom Kim. We're out here again. Elephant Castle, as always. You know. Just realised as well, it's more busy in the evenings because, you know, everyone be coming back from work. So, of course, it's also an ideal time to catch Jake as well. You know. Gotta keep this fishing going. It's literally the station right to the right of me. Literally, if you're going through the corner, that's the station right there. So, we're meeting a lot of Jakes. Anyways, to start off, Allah Ibla, Allah Shadiyah Yahweh, Hashem, Adaz Akwan Yahweh, Mashiach, Hashem Rahman Kudash, and double honors to the great Muslim apostles. Allah Ibla, meaning all praises to the Most High Yahweh. Yahweh being the ancient Hebrew name of the Most High, of which the world ignorantly calls gods. And of course, Yahweh Shai being the ancient Hebrew name of the Messiah, which the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. But of course, his real name is Yahweh Shai, and the ancient Hebrew meaning He delivers. And of course, Yahweh. I'm not gonna complete it now, so it's gonna melt by the time I'm done. It's alright, man. Thank you. So of course, Yahweh being the ancient Hebrew name of the Most High, meaning He is. And of course, Yahweh Shai being the ancient Hebrew name of the Messiah, meaning He delivers. And the thing is, He's gonna deliver Israel. So the topic today is, what is the Salakia? Because I wrote it down, but you know, memory comes back. Oh, you can't remember, Salakia. But the topic today is basically not all Jakes are going to be able to handle that humiliation. You know, that humiliating feeling, if you search the definition of humiliation, it's pretty much that the decrease of self-respect or pride. The infliction upon one's self-respect. That's really what humiliation is. So the thing is, Jake can't handle that, most of Jake. And obviously Jake referring to you Israelites, you Negroes, Latinos, you never met an Israel. So every Jake is meant to come out here, preach. Because I remember I think last week, you know, preaching with the brothers, you know, I think there were two girls that passed by, and the thing is, one of the brothers, I think it was Caleb clocked that they were laughing at our garment. And the thing is, back in the day, this was actually a usual thing to wear, you know. These long garments that we're wearing right now, man. Blue fringes, blue ribbon with fringes, of course. That was traditional. That was part of our customs to wear. But of course, because of the fact that, you know, Israel right now was scattered, our customs are divided. We don't really even have a collective custom. Of course, it's established, but the thing is not being in practice. So you know, when a custom's there, the traditions are there. We're in the scriptures to follow, but not all Israelites are actually following them. You know, they've gone into different idols and different customs to follow. That's the thing. So, yeah, pertaining to the topic, the fact that not all Jakes can actually handle humiliation. As you know, in this truth as well, we are going to get humiliated. And the thing is, I had a dream, but I didn't really put out this testimony. Where in the dream, the thing is, I remember I was with a few of the UK brothers preaching. This is in the dream, by the way. This is just a little testimony. I was in a dream, and the thing is, in the dream, I was preaching in this packed area where it was as packed as Oxford Circle, Trafalgar Square, them type of areas in the UK. And the thing is, as I was preaching as well, in the dream I saw myself on the TV. So I was wondering, whoa, what's going on here? I saw myself on the TV, and not just myself, me and the brothers as well as we were preaching. That's the thing. And the thing is, if you ask the general Jake out here that's living, the average Jake, they're not willing to actually sacrifice their own dignity, their own identity, to flipping things, serve your elbow, shimmy outside. And anyways, in this kingdom, your identity is going to fade as well. It's going to be worthless, all these riches. Because eventually it's all going to come to the burning of the fire, those nuclear missiles. So let me get my first precept, Salat. Let me get it. This is Matthew chapter 10, verse 24. It says, the disciple is not above his master, nor the servant above his lord. But what that really means is, the servant who is under the master is not above the master. He's supposed to be listening to the master. And of course, serving, as the status goes, the servant is lower than his master. That's simply what it means. Can't really break it down to simpler terms than that. The servant is under the master, and of course the servant tries to fulfill the wishes of the master, what the master commands the servant to do. So of course the servant is not higher than the master, which is essentially what that scripture means. Now, this is Matthew chapter 10 verse 25. It says it is enough for the disciples. This is Matthew chapter 10 verse 25. It is enough for the disciples that he be as his master and a servant as his Lord. If they call the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more shall they call them of his household? That was referring to the fact that Yahushua, the Messiah himself, was being referred to as a demonic name. That's the thing. And that's probably referring to the fact that, you know, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the scribes, they're probably calling him names, all sorts of names as well, of which Yahushua was detecting, but you know, at times he would answer, and at times he wouldn't answer as well. You know? So the thing is, they called him Beelzebub, and of course, imagine the household. You know, us out here in the house and bowing, you know, and also making videos. The thing is, as we're out here preaching the truth, and we know we're in a wicked world trying to unleash this truth as well, we know we're going to get some backlash as well. That's the thing. We know for sure that we're going to get that backlash. And the thing is, not every day is actually willing to get that backlash. Now, Jake, right now, the thing is, you got to have a certain spirit upon you to then say Esau, Edom. Obviously, for those who understand, Esau, Edom being the white man, is the so-called devil of the earth. He's the one of which demons come upon in order to oppress Jake. That's the thing. You got to have that certain spirit on you, and not all Jakes have that spirit. That's the thing. Come at him, tell Jake, and the thing is, they're worshipping a white Jesus, man. Because white Jesus ain't going to save you in that time. That's what people don't understand, man. You know, Jake just going about, dealing with his business, you know, passing by, not realizing the gold that they're supposed to be receiving. And by gold, what I'm referring to is reading the scriptures, man. But obviously the scriptures are far more worthy, valuable than gold. That's the point.
Preaching, my don.
Do you know you're Israelite, brother?
No, I don't. I'm not even educated like that, but my mum is.
The name of the Most High is Yahweh, remember that. The thing is, before you can even say something detailed, you got to give him something in it. So if he hears Yahweh, obviously Yahweh Tazar, he will then search it up, then, you know, you keep going. That's the point, man. We're fishing out here. It says in Jeremiah 16 verse 16, talking about the transition from fishers of men to hunters. From fishers to hunters. But right now, obviously, as we got our big scriptures, of course we're trying to get Jake out here, man. Wherever the 1/3 be, we're trying to get them. So yeah, the point being is, if they're called the master, this is referring to Matthew chapter 10, if they're called the master Yahushua, Beelzebub, and of course if you research the name Beelzebub, that's reference to a demon. So of course they were insulting Yahushua back in the day. So if that's what they did to Yahushua, our master, imagine what they do to his servants as well. And you know the previous verse, in verse 24 of Matthew chapter 10, it refers to the fact that, of course, the servant is not greater than his master. So essentially, that should be humility. That should be the humility that all brothers should have. The knowledge of the fact that, of course, we're going to get insulted as well, but the things we shouldn't really react. Majority of them may even be heathens as well. And some of them may be speckled bird, but obviously don't take offense. As the scriptures say in Ezekiel chapter 5 or 3, let me get it, I'll get it. About the fact that he's going to make our heads hard against theirs. Which means that when we're actually going to confront them, things Yahweh Shem Yahshua is going to put that spirit of confidence to actually face them and actually teach them the truth and bring them the truth as well. And to not fear them because of their face. Because you know, certain Jakes right now, when you look at them, the things you may want to just hold back, you know, not want to talk, but the thing is, you got to have that spirit of confidence and pray for it. Literally, before I come out here for camp, I'm always praying to Yahweh Shem Yahshua for that spirit of confidence, so that I can actually preach unto Jake, and so that what I say makes sense. So, you know, you can't just be out here preaching, and if it's what you preach don't make sense, you're basically waffling, and that's not the intention. It's to fish, to gather Jake, and tell them the truth, really, about their master being Yahushua, being a so-called black man, and of course the fact that they're worshipping a demon, really, an idol. That's what they need to be woken up to. Now let me get Ezekiel chapter 5 or 3. I'm speaking on the fact of humiliation as well. This is just a personal experience as well. And for me personally, in some other locations that I preached at, in the probably last year or 2 years ago, when I was preaching, the thing is I've already came across friends and family as well. Actually not the family, but of course friends. And these friends, they came from the same secondary school. Of course in America, secondary school is basically the equivalent of high school in America. So the ones that came to the same school as me, they've seen me face to face before. But obviously you still got to keep preaching out here. That's the thing. Some brothers, obviously some new brothers, or certain Jake, if they were doing this, they'll feel embarrassed or something. And that embarrassment is basically going into the topic today of humiliation. That's the thing, because not everyone can actually handle that humiliation. Only those, and that's another thing as well. If you're outside can see you can handle it, that's probably why he woke you up to the truth as well. To the knowledge, the fact that, onto his name, onto these certain breakdowns to understand, the knowledge of reincarnation and certain meats as well that are hard to actually choose. About the testimony. It's from a simple, so obviously the complicated ones always is too deep for majority of Jake. The outside told you to be in here for a reason. So let me get that scripture. I'm going to see it. Made our faces or our heads hard against them.
I feel like we've just been
That's
so
the key.
busy. Like,
to be honest, this scripture as well, as I read it too, that's pretty much motivation for him too. When you pray for that spirit of confidence as well, this is what comes out of you. Now now when you have that spirit built upon you to be confident, you preach out here, you don't really care who's passing by, whether it be heathens, Luther, Jake, you're just preaching the word, man, until a 1/3 actually comes by and listens to you. Let me actually make sure it's still recording. Yeah, still good, still good. Yeah, man. Now let me read it. This is let me read from verse 7. This is Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 7. It says, "But the house of Israel will not hearken unto me, for they will not hearken unto me." Let me read it again. Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 7. "For the house of Israel will not hearken unto thee, for they will not hearken unto me. For all the house of Israel are impudent and hard-hearted." So obviously that's the average state of Jake right now. The average state of Israel. They're hard-hearted and they're impudent. But let me search the definition of right now. I'm out here preaching, Jake just look at you. Brother, you know you're an Israelite. Did you know you're an Israelite? One of the chosen people of the Most High. Do you know what Israelite is? Never heard of it. What country? No. You look like one of them. Sorry, but obviously there may be speckled bird in that, but I'm just trying to fish out it. So some of them be looking like Jake. Obviously you can't just judge from the face, innit? And the thing is, he may either be, that typical heathen, or he may be a speckled bird. But of course, if he's a speckled bird and he's destined to come into the truth, then of course, maybe in the time to come, I'm going to see him again. But as he said there, I asked him, what country are you from? He said Sudan. So that's why I said he may be a heathen. That's the thing. You've got Jake out here right now in this corruptible state. You've got Eve as well in this flipping state of disgust as well. Like, Akim, you know what I'm seeing right now. That's the thing. Those two, I think, Israelite women that are crossing by, pretty much exposing themselves, exposing their bodies, And that goes into the fact that, what I said previously about the fact that Israel right now is pretty much divided into different customs, and they're not even going into their own customs and traditions. That's the thing, they're detached. That's the word I was looking for. They're detached from their customs, which are written within these scriptures. Now, I'll read it. It's Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 8. It says, behold, this is verse 8 by the way, Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 8. Behold, I have made thy face strong against their faces, and thy forehead strong against their foreheads. It says in verse 9, as an adamant harder than flint have I made thy forehead. Fear them not, neither be dismayed at their looks, though they be a rebellious house. But you know, we're preaching out here. I know certain people may be giving you looks. That's the point, is to not fear them. The point is to not fear them. Heathens, two-thirds, Israelites, whether they be of the other nations. You ask me repeating the same thing again. The point is we're not supposed to fear them. But specifically, that verse in between verse 7 to verse 9 is referring to Israel. We're not supposed to be fearing them. You know, they be giving you some hard looks or some looks that are basically discourage you from preaching the word. But if you go into 1 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 10, it goes into the fact that we're fools for your house shall sake. Who's willing to actually make themselves a fool for someone else, man? No one else is actually willing to do that. Not even to mention about Jake, man. Jake don't want to make themselves fools for your house shall. You know, their own master, they don't want to flip in, make themselves fools. And of course, when you make yourself a fool, that's also part of the humiliation as well. And I'll get that scripture too, 1 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 10. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 10. It says, we are fools for Christ's sake, for Yahushua HaMashiach's sake. It says in the ancient Hebrew. I'll read it again. We are fools for Yahushua's sake, but ye are wise in Yahushua HaMashiach. We are weak, but ye are strong. Ye are honorable, but we are despised. So of course right there, referring to the fact that we are fools for Yahushua's sake. Just because the world perceives us as fools, don't mean that we're actually fools. We actually got the wisdom of the scriptures. We know about the prophecy. We know what's to come. And we know what we should be investing our time in. Which is why we have the confidence to preach at him. So, you know, once you're exposed to that type of knowledge of the scriptures, of the prophecy of what's to come, it means you actually know where to actually invest your time into, and to also stand strong into as well. Where to be rooted in, yeah. That's the phrase, where to be rooted in. So, I'll read it one more time. This is 1 Corinthians 4 verse 10. We are fools for Yahushua's sake, but ye are wise in Yahushua HaMashiach. We are weak, but ye are strong. Ye are honorable, but we are despised. So of course, as it said in 1 John, about the fact that if the world hated you, it hated Yahushua also, or it hated Yahushua first. That's the key, man. If they hate Yahushua, of course it's going to hate his servants as well. Which also links to the other scripture. I read it before. I think it was Matthew 10. Probably Matthew 10 or something. But the other scripture that I read where it was talking about the fact that if they call the master Beelzebub, then when they'll also call the servants as well. They'll also insult the servants too. Roughly paraphrase, it's a lot there. In fact, let me try and get it again. It was Matthew 10. Yeah, it was Matthew 10, 24 to 25, man. Matthew 10, 24 to 25. About them calling Yahushua Beelzebub, which is the demonic name, which is a demonic name, a reference to him, an insult to him. And of course, if he got cussed out, if he got insulted, the servants as well, what's actually the future of them? They're also going to get insulted as well, even for a worse maybe. Well, actually, no, not for a worse, because, you know, Yahushua is the one who suffered the most. He's the lamb. So, of course, he made the biggest sacrifice. So, essentially, the servants still have to suffer, as Yahushua did too. Now, let's get another scripture.
I have a lot of bugs.
That's the thing with these heathens. Is when you preach, they probably think that you're preaching this Christianity nonsense. And so at times, you know, you just leave them, let them pass by. Mark chapter 10, verse 35. It says here, and James and John, the sons of Zebedee, come unto him, saying, Master, we would that thou shouldest do for us whatsoever we shall desire. Salakiakim, if I struggle with a little word. You know, this is a different scripture. Of course, it's still the King James Bible, but it's the 1611 version. I know some of the words are a bit, you know when it says us, it says like VS or something like that. Sometimes I might struggle to read it, but anyways, let me continue on.